Hello everyone and welcome to another training presentation by Dr. George Safety Training Series. I am Dr. George, your safety trainer. Today's training presentation is about hazardous communications, or HazCom, as it is also referred to. In essence, HazCom is the OSHA standard that notifies every employee of their right to know what type of hazardous chemicals they could potentially be exposed in the workplace. HazCom is also known as the Right to Know standard. In the healthcare industry, the number of chemicals present in every facility could potentially cause serious work-related injuries, or even death, if an employee is not fully trained to recognize its chemical properties and effects on the human body. You should know that today, more than 32 million workers work with and are potentially exposed to one or more chemical hazards. Currently, we have more than 700,000 chemical products on the market, and these numbers keep growing annually. Accidental exposure to hazardous chemicals may expose you to serious health effects, such as heart disease, central nervous system damage, kidney and liver failure, sterility, cancers, burns, and other skin conditions. In addition, many of these chemicals are capable of causing fires and explosions, which of course, can be deadly, due to the potential to cause serious injuries and death to employees. OSHA's Hazardous Communications Standard was enacted in order to ensure that employers and employees know about the potential for serious injuries due to accidental exposure, the types of work hazards involved with these chemical products, and how to protect the employee from illnesses and injuries. In case an accidental exposure did occur, we often find ourselves working with some form of hazardous chemicals in our work setting. OSHA's HazCom standard applies to most industries, including the healthcare industry, which falls under the general industry category. Please keep in mind that a product like liquid whiteout is considered a chemical. This means that your facility should have the appropriate Material Safety Data Sheet, or MSDS, available for employee use. Let's go over the employer's responsibilities. Employers should 1. Identify and list all the hazardous chemicals in their facility. 2. Obtain an MSDS and label for each chemical in the facility. If the MSDS was not initially provided, please get one from the distributor or manufacturer. 3. Implement a written HazCom program, including labels, MSDSs, and employee training. And 4. Always communicate hazardous information with everyone in your facility. Employers can minimize the potential for hazards in their facility by first performing a thorough risk hazard assessment. It is important for employers to remember that they should rely on the information found in the manufacturer's MSDSs and labels in order to implement policies, procedures, and safety precautions. It is very important that your facility has a HazCom written program available for your employees to inspect at all times. Everyone in the facility should be able to easily find and read your facility's written plan, as needed. As part of the HazCom standard, you are required to train your employees on how to use this plan and where to find it. Your written plan should provide a description and proper use of container labeling. It should have information on MSDSs and employee training. The plan should also contain a list of all hazardous chemicals in your facility and information regarding protective measures for employees on site. It is important to remember that every hazardous chemical that enters your facility should be properly labeled and marked with 1. The identity or name of the chemical. 2. The container must have the appropriate warning labels. And 3. The name and address of the person responsible for the chemical. Please note that every labels used on a hazardous chemical container must be legible, easily visible, and written in English. The wording on the labels may be any message, picture, or symbol that provides information on the chemical, such as the hazard and target organ affected. If accidentally exposed, you should know that MSDSs are one of the most important elements of a written HazCom program. The MSDS is provided by the chemical manufacturer, the distributor, or the importer. Every MSDS will describe the chemical's physical hazard, such as fire or explosion. It will also contain the health hazards, routes of exposure, precautions for safe handling and use, emergency and first aid procedures, and control measures. The MSDS must be written in English and include information regarding the specific chemical identity and common name. It must also provide the physical characteristics, health effects, exposure limits, the name, address, and telephone number of the organization responsible for preparing the MSDS, and whether it is a carcinogen. If you receive a hazardous chemical and it does not contain an MSDS, your organization must contact the manufacturer, supplier, or importer, and get a copy of the MSDS as soon as possible. You should keep a written record of your request for the MSDS on file. Please take a look at the MSDS on the screen, and make sure that all your employees are familiar with this document. Every employee should know how to read and use an MSDS. As an employer, you are required to provide training to any employee who may be exposed to hazardous chemicals in their workplace. This very important training should be given when the employee was initially assigned to the job, and whenever a new chemical is introduced into the workplace. Your training program should provide the employee with an explanation of the HazCom program, including labels, MSDSs, and how to obtain and use the available hazardous information. This training should also provide the types of hazards, what protective measures to use, such as engineering and administrative controls, and the use of PPEs. Finally, your employees should be trained on how to detect and report the presence or release of a hazardous chemical using monitoring devices and other means. As an employer, it is your duty to inform every employee about the HazCom program and its requirements. You must inform your employees what operations or job sites in your facility are hazardous chemicals present. They must know the availability and location of the written hazard communication manual, where they can find the list of chemicals, and finally, where all the MSDSs are located. Very well, let's recap what we have learned in this training video. OSHA's HazCom standard is based on the concept that every employee has both a need and a right to know the hazards and identity of the chemicals they may be potentially exposed to in the workplace. In addition, every employee should be familiar with the protective measures available and which adverse effect they need to prevent. Well, you have definitely been a great audience. I truly have enjoyed our time together. I hope to see you once again during our next training presentation. On behalf of all of us here in the studio, we like to thank you. Please join us next time. Until then, I am Dr. George. Goodbye.